Yes. Oh, if it was a man and woman, it would be easy. But with two Keishas, it's gonna be yeah.
You can, if you want, you can call us Cuts and Horn. We're okay with that as well.
Dr. Cuts and Dr. Horn. I will do that.
Okay.
Okay.
And so you're going to introduce us, right?
Yes.
Great.
And you're not even gonna talk to me about it.
Good. I don't
Yeah. Oh.
I'm fine with that.
I was gonna put it up here, but it's kind of weird. Are we ready to go? Okay. Afternoon, afternoon. Hello, hello. Oh, perfect. All right. Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining today. I'm Stacy Klein. I'm the head of strategic supplier engagement with the Cloud Supply Chain Organization at Google, one of the sponsors of the event. And I'm moderating today's session, effectively managing Gen Z and millennial employees, engaging and motivating younger workforces. So I am with my panelists, and I'm going to introduce them shortly, but we want you to use the app, the conference app, to go, and it's called Career Communications Group. Download the app if you haven't done so already, because all of the information on this session will be in there, and the bios for myself and the panelists are also in the app, okay? So today's panel members are Dr. Keisha Cutts, Medical Program Manager for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, South Atlantic Division, and she is joined by Dr. Keisha Horn, Senior Technical Program Manager at Peraton. So as I mentioned earlier, the full bios are in the app, and we have this streaming live. So when we ask for questions from the audience, we would like you to go to the mic here so that the folks that are online and virtual can hear everything, okay? And then so for the virtual audience who need to ask questions, please go to Slido tool, and you could submit your questions there or scan the QR code that is being shown at the presentation right now, okay? I'm just doing some housekeeping. So for CEU and PhD units, also in the app, okay? So let's get started. So this session is relevant to many managers who want to effectively, in today's workplace, manage Gen Z and millennials, because they are the future of the workforce, right? When we look at Gen Z and millennials, they are the most diverse and educated generation in history. They also are the most digitally native generation, having grown up with the internet and social media at their fingertips. These factors have shaped their values, priorities, and expectations in the workplace. So Dr. Horn and Dr. Cutts are going to go over some of the key things that you need to know as a manager or even working with Gen Z and millennial colleagues, how to build trust and rapport with younger workers, create a work environment that is appealing to the younger generation, motivate and engage younger workers, and develop and retain younger talent. So let's jump right into it. We have some questions that we had shaped up prior to the session, but of course we expect total interaction from the audience, so we'd like you to come to the mic if you have additional questions, but I'll get started with one question to Dr. Cutts. What are some common challenges you have experienced when working to effectively manage Gen Z and millennial employees?
So good morning. Before I start, I do want to make a note that my colleague here, Dr. Horn, and I both are graduates of the national treasure, Morgan State University. It was an honor and a privilege to find out on a humble that we were both going to be panel members, and I just wanted to note that before I started. I wanted to give her extreme recognition. I'm extremely proud to be here with her on this panel. So back to the question, common challenges. So as we all know, we've kind of heard the initial comments about Gen Z and millennials, and being a Gen Xer, you know, we relate to them somewhat. They're like our little brothers and little sisters. And we have that saying that, you know, adversity builds character and character and strength builds entitlement. Right? And so to some extent, that's the negative things you hear about the Gen Z and millennials, that they're oftentimes entitled. And so getting past that perception and being reminded that we have to understand their needs, so we have to keep them engaged. So one of the biggest challenges for us, I work again for the Army Corps of Engineers, so a federal agency, and understanding sometimes that when they come into an organization as a junior counterpart, they don't understand the culture, they don't understand the requirements or the intent, and so you have to find ways to keep them engaged and committed. There's oftentimes easygoing and laid back, but sometimes that can be perceived as self-centered. They're oftentimes open-minded, but that could also be, again, perceived as entitlement. So you have to help them find that balance between being hardworking and sometimes non-committal. So keeping them engaged, I think, is the biggest challenge for us within the Corps of Engineers.
Dr. Horn?
I come from a totally different environment than Dr. Cutts, so this conversation is going to be extremely interesting. I want you all to know that I am very excited to be here. I have a home full of Gen Zs and millennials, and so I have to manage them at home and manage them at work. And it is two very different platforms, but some of the same skills apply. I think the biggest thing is being misunderstood. They feel like we, us baby boomers and Gen Xers, don't understand them at all, but we do. We've all been there. I also would like to say, not to take over from the moderator, that this conversation is most successful with your participation. We know what we want to say. We know what we'd like to say. We have lots of questions that we can answer, but we want to help you be able to lead and guide your workforce. So please engage us as best you can. Just fire away. We're ready.
Okay. Another question that we have is, how do you encourage a healthy work-life balance with Gen Z and millennial employees?
So I'll take that first. Again, I come from a different environment. I work in a secure environment, so that's the first thing that's very unique. It is a commercial company, but we work in a secure environment, and you don't really know what you're doing until you get there. You may not know what the expectation is going to be. You don't know what protocol is going to be. Your friends are working at Google, and they have nap pods, and you can come in at every hour of the day that you want. All of these things that don't apply in our environment. We are defense contractors, and we work in all the different government facilities and environments, and rules just don't apply to us. So you've got to set the tone from the beginning. And again, some of my colleagues don't appreciate me likening it to parenting, whether you've had a child or not. There's no book for parenting. You learn by doing, but I use those same skills. Every child is different, and you have to deal with them individually, and you have to set the tone in the beginning from the start, much like an educator. When your students walk into your classroom, good morning, class, with whatever energy that it is that you bring within you, and you set the tone. This is who we are, this is what we do, this is how we do it. But you continue to engage with them. They like to engage. We are not on cell phones during the day in my work environment. We are not on the internet. We're not dealing with the outside world in our environment. So that is something that we have to talk through all the time. So establishing that relationship from the very beginning and continuously engaging with them, I think, is going to be your first step, whether you like it or not. I know that the question's going to come up later. We can talk about it. The why. You get a lot of well whys. So we'll go into that later, but you've got to establish the whys in the beginning.
Dr. Cutts?
Yes, so thank you. Again, I think we have experienced opportunity for greater flexibilities within our organization, specifically since COVID. And so that has allowed us to support some of those items of work-life balance a little better. A lot of people prefer working from home, and some of our positions allow you to work from home, and we've been able to be more flexible in that. But again, like Dr. Horn said, for us, clear expectations has been the biggest thing of ensuring that work-life balance. Gen Z and the millennials, oftentimes, once you give them a task, they like getting that task and moving out and executing. And so if we set those clear expectations and those boundaries, a lot of times we can allow them to do that with that guidance in the beginning and give them an environment to grow. They want to learn, they want to be continuous learners, and so we give them that environment to grow and let them know that it's okay to fail, it's okay to come back and ask questions, but go do it. At least try, and then come back and ask questions. So again, I think with that flexibility, giving them clear expectations, and then just telling me, come back when it's done, gives them opportunity to feel like at least they have a greater sense of work-life balance. And again, good, bad, or indifferent, but due to COVID, a lot of our positions have been gone to remote or partially remote positions.
So we're talking about Gen Z and millennials valuing work-life balance, collaboration, meaningful work. They're also more likely to speak out about social and environmental issues, what's going on politically. Managers who want to attract and retain top talent for these generations need to be able to adapt to their needs and expectations, right? So what incentives outside of financial perks have you found to be most effective when recruiting and retaining Gen Z and millennial employees? I'll start with Dr. Cutts, this one.
So I think the Corps of Engineers, being a federal agency, again, has learned to be as creative as possible when it comes to incentives that are not financial. Because as most people or individuals know, the federal government doesn't necessarily pay the best. So we look at promoting some of our incentives otherwise. But I think in my experience with managing Gen Zs and millennials, the biggest perk that we have is training. We do a lot of personal and professional training. There's a lot of opportunities for them to be upskilled and reskilled. And that's one of the things that we're learning that Generation Z and the millennials really like. They like to be smarter than everybody in the room, right? So they like to continue to learn, and they like to continue to feel valued. And so by giving them these training opportunities to be able to be more marketable, even within our agency or when they leave our agency, because we know chances are they will leave our agency. But we're prepared to train them and make them as marketable for the success of the nation in the future.
Okay, Dr. Horn?
For us, it's extremely tough. It definitely has to come by way of a monetary increment in some way or a bonus. Outside of monetary things, it's the level of clearance that we possess and helping them understand what that means for them and the different types of opportunities that they will have holding that level of clearance and maintaining that level of clearance, and also the type of work that they'll be able to touch. As Dr. Cutts said, they like to be the smartest people in the room. Some of us at the highest level of clearance in the nation are touching things that you would never imagine that you could put your hands on coming out of college. And you come and work for a company called Peraton or Lockheed or Northrop. You have no idea where you're going, and you end up in one of these big three-letter agencies that you've always dreamed of working for, and you don't realize that's where you're going to end up. So I feel like that's where my incentives come in that way.
I need to add one thing as I continue to market and recruit for the Corps of Engineers. We are also all over the world. right? So you have mobility, right? You have opportunities to travel, and like Dr. Horn said, we work with a number of other companies and partner agencies where the Army is. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is also there, so there's opportunities to travel, even doing your same job or into another job. And so again, that's part of our recruitment and retention incentives as well. If you don't like it here, go somewhere else. So I have had the opportunity to live in other countries, worked for 5 different districts. So even within my career, so it's great numbers of opportunities within the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
That was a great plug.
Great plug, great plug. Awesome tips. And one of the things that we keep hearing is that managers who are used to managing older generations may find themselves struggling to keep up. And one of the reasons behind that with Gen Z and millennials is social media, right? So can you give us some pointers or some guidelines on how do you handle these Gen Zs and millennials as they come into the workplace and are focused on social media, and how has that impacted your ability to recruit and retain them? Because their focus seems sometimes to split. So we want to make sure we get some tools and tips from you on handling social media in the workplace.
I would say, straight from Nike, just do it. Don't fight it, do it. Get on social media. Be a part of their world. You have to be able to relate to them. Everyone's on social media in some capacity, all of the generations. Many of us in the older generations, our friends are on Facebook. Our millennials are on IG. Be there. Everybody's on Twitter, or is it called X now?
X, yes.
Be there. Go out and see what's so fascinating to them. Get in their world and help. It'll help you understand. It also helps when you have children, right? I'm on social media to monitor my children. Then I started to love it. TikTok is the devil. But it is entertaining. It is funny. There are people out there my age being crazy on TikTok, and it's funny. And now all of our organizations have banned us from using TikTok, but you can use it on your private and personal devices. But I would encourage you all to get into their world. I mean, my mom's on Facebook now. Why? Because she's following the kids and seeing what they do. I am not on social media recruiting. It's not something that I do. I don't believe it's something that I can safely do. I'm a talker. I interact with people. I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm really not on LinkedIn because people want to then ask you a bunch of questions and you're in a secure environment, and I just can't answer all of those questions. But my recruiters are on LinkedIn, and I have great relationships with my recruiters. We engage all the time. They're out there doing it, and they encourage us. They don't always understand what it's like to be in our environment. They're like, put this on your social media page. Put this in. No, I don't want to do that, but you can do that. And so because our company from a corporate perspective is out there, we are able to bring in some of the millennials. But for all of my employees, I'm out there. I do not friend them, no. But if they want to send me something, I'll look at it and we can laugh together. So we have something to relate to. And that also then opens the door for conversations when things may or may not be inappropriate, right? There are certain things that you cannot bring to work. It's just that simple. It should apply to all work environments, but more importantly, our work environment. We are in a customer service oriented field. We are there to do a job. And so there are certain conversations that we should not engage in. And I speak to them about that. But I put myself in their space when it comes to social media, and I try to understand from their point of view. And I think that has helped.
Awesome. Dr. Cutts?
Ditto. She said it all. I guess the only thing I do want to add to that piece is the last piece she kind of touched on is just being able to understand their space, being able to understand their needs, their desires. Again, we kind of touched on, their social consciousness, like they're woke, right? These individuals have a different level of things that are important to them and being able to relate to them. And then also being able to be that mentor or that advocate sometimes when they cross the lines because now they're professionals. And it is our opportunity and our responsibility to ensure that they do the right things when it comes to their employment, right? So I think being conscious and aware of somebody, of what they're doing and being able to correct at times. I think that's the responsibility as we manage and lead these individuals. It's our responsibility to correct when correction is needed, but we also have to be able to understand the place of corrections, right? We got to know what we're talking about and be able to offer an opportunity of how to do it differently, not to say don't do it at all, because then, they'll just do the opposite thing. But we got to be able to provide good guidance and direction for the things for them to engage in the things that are important to them.
And we have to be open to the things they're interested in, even if we're not interested in it. One of the biggest things I've learned as a leader is most people just want to know that you care in whatever capacity that it is, even if you don't care. I'll bring my kids in again. My kids will come with all these things that, oh, Mom, look, this is great. Like, everybody's doing it. This is women of color, so I'll say like eyelashes, right? And nails and all these things. I'm not into those things, but a couple of my kids are, a couple of them are not. But it's a big deal for them to show me eyelashes. Okay. These are cute, this is too long, these look like butterflies, let's go through all of that. I don't care about eyelashes. But while I'm engaging them in the conversation, I give them my undivided attention, and I show them that I'm caring about the eyelashes. And once they go away, as long as my money is not being spent on the eyelashes, I don't care how many eyelashes you purchase. It's just that simple. And that's what employees want. And that's why I got into leadership, because I needed someone to care about me as I was going through my career. And I had a lot of people that cared about me. Unfortunately, a lot of those people didn't look like me, but they cared about me and they helped me get to where I am today. And that's my job, no matter how old the employee is. And there's also a whole nother side to this, is helping people in my generation be able to acclimate to being in this environment with millennials, because it's different. It's different the way they speak, the way they dress, the appearance. Please do not be offended, any millennials that are in the room, but it is different. There are things that I just knew, that I was taught. There was a level of expectation. It is not there anymore. Come as you are. Do what you'd like, go to an interview. You can wear a neon pink suit because it's cool. For me, I could never wear a neon pink suit anywhere. It's just how it was, but things are different, and we have to act like we care, and we have to try to understand, because they are our future, whether we like it or not. So we have to embrace them and then help to mold them to get them to where we want to be. The children that come from my home would never wear a neon pink suit, right? But I poured into them what was poured into me, and now I'm in a position to be able to continue to pour into others. That's what we're supposed to do.
Excellent. Any points to add? So perfect segue, because one of the things I was having a discussion about the other night was social media for this generation is how they live and breathe. They put everything on social media. The issue for employers and recruiters is, what do you suss out of all of the stuff that they post that leads you to understand who they really are when you want to bring them into your organization, right? Because someone could go in and post political statements and other negative things or positive things, So we want to make sure that we understand from your perspective, what are some of the recruiting techniques and tips, or if you have to have a specific hiring strategy around Gen Z and millennials? Do you go through social media before you hire someone, before you bring them in for an interview and those sorts of things. Is that a part of your recruitment strategy for this generation? Dr. Cutts, I'll let you start.
Thank you. Again, I think yes. I think we've kind of touched on a number of those points. Again, I think it's about the culture of the organization and being present, having your HR people, your PAO, go out and post the things that are interesting about your organization, trying to be present at events such as National Society of Black Engineers or any of the other events that promote and the incoming candidates within your organization. So you have to be present. And I think for us, we try to market those things, again, that they might be interested in, understanding that the monetary piece would not be prevalent for us. We try to promote the flexible work schedule. We try to promote the training. We try to promote the multidisciplinary opportunities within the organization. So again, we try to show where we do have opportunities in social conscience. Like for us, environmental justice is a big thing that's happening within the government. We're going out and it's one of our civil works efforts, and we're trying to make sure that underrepresented communities are being given attention to in areas where they typically wouldn't be. And again, social conscience is a big thing for Gen Z and the millennials, and so we try to show that we are making these efforts and these strides to do things that are important to them. So again, understanding the things that they need, the things that are important to them, and we try to promote those things that are happening within our organization. So those are some of the changes in our marketing strategy. Again, going on to the LinkedIn and to the IGs, we have those efforts within our organization to promote and just try to get out there. So the strategy is changing, and it should. Are we doing the best? Probably not. And I think that's also the importance of having the Gen Z and the millennials within our organization to help us be better to market to that demographic.
Would their social media presence impact them getting a job?
So I think it depends. That's a good question. I think it depends, again, on how prevalent the posts or comments that they're making are. We don't typically, as a hiring manager, we don't typically go out and look at past history of social media, right? We don't do that. And I think it's a good practice not to do it because sometimes we make bad decisions in the past.
Okay.
And that's not indicative of who you are today.
Good.
And so I don't think that that's a practice that we use, and I don't think that's a practice we'll ever use.
Awesome.
Well, again, unless it depends on the level of clearance or whatever you might need. But currently, just as an entry level for us, with just having a secret clearance, that's not something we do.
Dr. Horn?
So my talent acquisition team does use social media. They are trying to move in that direction because that's where we do get younger talent. Internally, those of us hiring managers do not, because it's just not a part of our everyday life. Does their social media and internet footprint matter? It does. It absolutely matters when you're trying to obtain a clearance. No, I don't sit and engage with you and say, if you have this on your social media, then that's probably not a good thing. However, the amount of paperwork that they have to fill out and the line of questioning that they receive in this environment, they are very much aware that everything that they do is an impact to their ability to obtain a position in our company on that side of the house. My company does have commercial work, though. But where we are, we are a small percentage of what Peraton does. We help them to understand that everything that they do can impact their job in some way.
Okay, that's great answers. I have a couple more questions here, but I do want to throw it out. Like Dr. Horn said, we want to make this interactive. Is there any questions from the audience? Anybody want to? Can you come to the mic on this side?
We are all here for a reason. Don't be shy. Let's get it out. Even if it seems like it's negative, we can make it a positive.
Exactly.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carolina Cruz, Army. I know that the discussion is focused a lot about the civilian workforce, but I'm getting ready to take battalion command next summer, and one of my biggest concerns is the generation. The Army is having a lot of issues with recruiting and retention, and my question to you will be, how or what are things that I can instill on the company command teams on making our soldiers more resilient. I have a 25-year-old daughter. She was also a soldier. She only did 4 years. And she said, Mom, how have you done this for 26? He says, you're brainwashed. She did 4 years and she was out. She got her GI Bill and got out, and she has a different experience. But I think that we have so many talented young Americans that can still serve, and we ask a lot from them, right? Because in the civilian workforce, you're not being told that, hey, at any time you might have to deploy or go overseas. But I do think that we still have people, and I want to be able to influence so we can explain to the soldiers why they're serving, give them the expectations, give them more predictability, but we have to make them more resilient so at the first sign of adversity, they don't just give up and end up ETSing when they could have been great future leaders in the Army.
That's a great question.
Can I start? So I just want to say thank you for your service. My son just commissioned in the Army. He is now in Bolick. He'll be 80A battalion, so I'm super excited. He's a graduate of Tuskegee University. So I think you answered your question, though, right? I think you know what you have to do, right? You got to put that mama role on, like Dr. Horn said. Sometimes you have to be extremely empathetic, and you understand you have a child, so you know some of their needs are more maternal sometimes. Sometimes we have to put that hat on of saying, you know, I know it's going to be hard. And for me, with my son, I've never worn a green suit, right? I've never done it, but I work with the Army every day. I see the soldier, I see their impacts. I've worked overseas, I've been to Afghanistan, so I know the impact and I know the mental stress. So you just have to have candid conversations. You have to put yourself in a position to say, it's not going to be easy, but what's the adverse, right? What happens if you walk away? What are you going to do otherwise? And you have to, again, one of the panelists, he just left out with the other panelists, he said you have to remind yourself that you're great, right? Remind yourself that you can do it. Remind yourself of your strength, your internal strength, and the fact that if you didn't want to be here, if you didn't want to at least try, you wouldn't be here, right? So you want to try. Don't give up. But remind them also that it's okay to choose a different path. Just keep going. It's all right. It's a commercial or something I saw probably on TikTok or something where they was talking about how 2 + 2 is not 4. Because 4 - 1 is also 4. You know, there's so many different ways to get to that 4. And so whichever path you choose, as long as you get to that 4, it's okay. And I think that's what we have to continuously remind them is they're smart, they're educated, they are resilient. We just have to continue to remind them that they are.
And just to add on to that, what's the alternative? Like that's a big thing for me. It's big at home and it's big at work. What else are you going to do? And it's a hard conversation, but that's why you are leaders, right? You took whatever path to get there, whether it was some training or exposure, to put you in a position to be able to, again, pour into somebody else. And sometimes that requires a really hard conversation that somebody's not gonna like or that somebody never received. It's not just leading, it's also parenting and mentoring in a positive way. What is the alternative to you not joining the Army? What are you going to do? I mentor a lot of kids, really big middle and high school, because that's when they're most impressionable, and that's how we get them to college and beyond, right? What do your grades look like? Why do they look like this? What do you need to do to make an improvement? Because if you want to go to college, you want to be whatever it is you want to be, what are the steps that you have to take to get there? Figure out what those steps are. Look at where you are right now and how far away from that are you right now. Do you need to re-vector? Let's come up with a plan. If your grades are poor, you're not getting into this college with this GPA. That's real talk. You're not getting a scholarship without this SAT score. That's real talk. Next, it's time to graduate from college. Have you done any internships? Have you spoken to anyone? Have you established any relationships? Have you been to BEA? Have you been to Women of Color? Have you been to NSBE? Have you been to SWE? I'm an engineer, so all these things I love. I'm all in. You come to a forum like this where you can meet people to get to where you want to be. So what's the alternative to you now leaving the Army? Are you going to go work in retail? We need people there as well. But what are the benefits? How do they compare? You have to present them with all of these things so that they can make an informed decision, so that you can then be there to let them know that maybe their method of getting to 4 was not what you thought it should have been, but they can't complain when the results of getting to 4 are not the same as 2 plus 2, but you did 5 minus 1. So.
Thank you.
Question?
Good afternoon. I'm Jasmine Wilson.
Hi.
And as a Gen Zer,
Yes. Thank you for stepping up.
yes, I'm a Gen Zer in corporate America, and I've experienced a lot of the, this is just how things are, this is how things always have been, and we're just going to
And you don't want to hear it.
And I don't want to hear it.
I know it.
So I get a lot of pushback, and sometimes it's like you're seen as being like overly ambitious, and you just have to kind of continue on the road that things have always just been on. And I'm just curious, as managers, like how you have facilitated and incentivized just bringing about a new and going a different route, maybe being a little bit innovative in your younger workforce that are very ambitious and want to see change and just want to see something different in the future.
Reality check for me, right? You're not going to come, especially as an engineer. You've got people coming out of school thinking they should make 100K, thinking they're going to be the next Jobs and whomever else to just innovate this thing that is going to be groundbreaking and they're going to be millionaires. Those days are over, generally speaking. But you're here with me. We're not doing that here. You have to go into a different environment to do that. Those days are over for what we're doing, right? Reality is, this is where we are. This is the path we take. And I was just in another session where it's okay to say no, and it's okay for me to help you find the path to where it is you want to go. Don't just come and take a job just for a paycheck because it was the first thing that you got out of school. Because you maybe don't understand what that job means. I get that a lot in my environment. Somebody has you thinking you're gonna come in here and be the next VP. It doesn't work that way. The biggest reality for me, I got my doctorate and went all the way through school from 2 to 27, right? And it was an amazing feeling to be able to have a great mentor, an advisor, to have funding. We went to an amazing school. And I kept getting funding. I was a NASA fellow to do my graduate work, and I was just like, man, like I said, I wanted to be a doctor, but I didn't think it was just gonna come like this. But all of my friends, most of my friends stopped after undergrad. They were out working, and they were making money and having families and buying homes, and I was just kind of like, what happened? Like, what am I doing? Whatever, I go through, I get out with this doctorate, and so in my mind, I'm smarter than everybody. I have these 3 degrees, I'm a female, I'm brown, I'm checking all the boxes. They have to hire me, and they have to give me $1 million, because I'm worth it. But you're not. And somebody has to tell you that, because the bottom line is you can have all the degrees that you want. If you don't have any work experience, you don't mean a whole lot to that company unless the company is ready to foster that growth in you. That was something I maybe didn't want to hear, but that was something that I needed to know so that I could change my level of expectation. That was a hard conversation that needed to be had. I came out with a doctorate at that time a whole lot of years ago. I tried to stay young because I got kids, right? But I'm not. And I was making $76,000 a year with a doctorate, and that wasn't enough for me. But it was, because I had to earn my stripes and earn my keep. And you have to crawl before you walk. And someone has to tell you that, and you have to be receptive to it. But while they're telling you that, they also are supposed to help you get where you want to go. Things are the way they are. You do have to accept it, but it doesn't mean that things can't change. So we have the responsibility to work with you to help change things so that it is better suited for you. Because we don't always know, and our companies don't always know. We will learn and grow together is my response to that.
Dr. Cutts.
I have a slightly less harsh approach. Um, exactly. So that's why there's two of us here. Although everything that Dr. Horn just said is extremely true, I think for me, in my experience, we took a slightly different path. I came out. My undergraduate degree is engineering. My doctorate is I did business. I did MBA. I have my doctorate is in organizational leadership. And so for me, I did go right into the workforce again in the government. So didn't make as much as I thought I should, but I got advocates, right? I found those people who saw the best in me, who wanted the best for me. And so for me, having been that recipient of somebody who saw me in a room, because in the beginning is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's not. It's who knows you and what they think about you.
Absolutely.
So you have to put yourself in positions to be seen. Speak when you have something to say. Otherwise, hold your peace, right? Let somebody recognize you and let them be your advocate. So for me, being a brown woman in a field that often I'm the only person in the room, now I look for that person in the room. But I'm not looking for you if you're making a big scene when you shouldn't be seen, right? So make sure you find the advocates. And when you find that advocate, for me, when I find that person that now I want to be an advocate for, I am going to plan and promote. But if that person is not in the organization, that's not the place for you.
Yep.
Because you can't do it by yourself.
Absolutely.
You cannot do it alone. So make sure you have somebody who sees you and be worthy of being seen.
Thank you.
Please remember that. You cannot do it alone. There's always some shoulders that you have to stand on.
For sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the question.
Next.
Good afternoon, Camelia
Hi.
Clinkscales Major. I'm with Eastman. And I just wanted to lend something to the audience here about social media and how employers do use it when they're making decisions. And so I'm far from my first role in corporate. And when being recruited to Eastman, I went through an executive search firm. And they did a thorough background check. I didn't know exactly what that meant. I thought credit check, and the regular things. But they did a thorough social media battery on me. And part of the conversation that I had to have with those findings was, we saw this in your social media, not something that I even said, something that I liked that was inappropriate. And they kindly asked me to go back and unlike those things. So it's not only what you're saying in your social media, it's not only for those who are just coming out of college or any kind of degree program, it's for senior executives as well.
Absolutely.
And they will go back as far as they can to see what you have commented on, what you have liked, and what you have shared.
And the 6 degrees of separation,
It's
so small.
Yeah, it's probably more close to 2 or 3 now,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Especially with the power of social media. So I just wanted to lend that to everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, more questions.
Come on.
Hello. I work
Hi.
for one of those 3-letter organizations that you mentioned earlier, and I have a high-level clearance, and I work with a lot of military. I'm at a joint command, and how do I motivate the younger workforce when they come in? I've been in my position for 17 years now,
Okay.
and even though I am a federal civilian, we know it's not the best pay, but the perks and incentives is what keeps me there. And so I see a lot of people. First time, first duty station, or whatever the case may be, and they come in and they look at me and they're like, oh, okay, well, we kind of do the same thing as analysts, and you're making 6 figures because you're high on the GG scale and blah, blah, blah. And, I feel like I should be doing the same thing, but I try to remind them, I've been here 17 years.
You earned it.
I have 2 master's degrees. I have a wealth of certifications behind me. You're fresh off, JCAT or whatever the case. So I just wonder if you have some tips where I can kind of help them understand that even though we're in the same environment and the same role, I've been here a little bit longer, so I've earned where I am in my career.
So before Dr. Horn goes, because you know what her answer is, I, I offer that again. Just ask the questions, right? So, what do you think you should be making, and what do you think it takes to be in this position, and what do you think I know, right? What do you think it took for me to get here? Okay, so what are you gonna do to make yourself more marketable? What are you gonna do so that somebody can say, oh, I should be paying you more, right? So again, it's more of, they like to be able to answer, and when they can't, they Googling, right? They quick to Google, right? They looking to find the answer. So now you've put it in their court. So you're asking them the questions. Okay, so you're not, right? but you can be. And so what are you doing to get there, right? So then put the onus on them. Give them to say, this is the things that I've had to do. It wasn't necessarily pretty all the time, but these are the things that I had to do. This is the trip I made. Because again, none of us made it to these positions as fast as we thought we should. I've been with the government 23 years, right? So, and I'm just where I think I might have should have been 10 years ago, right? But so it's, I think it's just a matter of having the conversations and making them answer the questions. You don't have the answers sometimes because, again, it's not your experiences. You don't know what they need or what they truly desire. It's really just talking to them sometimes.
That was going to be
just
my
talking
answer.
to them. Okay.
Gosh. Yeah, I totally agree with that. You help them arrive to where they want to be. Just this past week, I had an employee who, I don't know the employee's age, but wanted us to give an increase between 30 and 50K. The person had only been with our company for about 3 years, and the response was, Peraton knows what I bring to the table. So our response was, well, can you help us understand what you believe Peraton knows, because we are unaware. Let us know what you bring to the table. Help me get you to where you want to be. I have offers from other places. Yeah, usually increases don't come by way of that much. However, if you have some documentation that you can share with me, we will receive it and take it for consideration, right? We're not doing that, but I'm not going to say that to him. Provide me with information. Well, I don't want to provide you the information because I don't want to show my hand. Well, I don't know how else to help you, sir, but I'm letting you know what I need. Well, the recruiter said, can you provide me with the conversation from the recruiter, right? Continue to ask them questions and put the onus on them. What is it that you expect? But I always tell my story about what I expected after all this schooling I had, right? And I didn't get what I expected, but the fruits of your labor, man, I'm getting what I expected now and more. So yeah, you've got to put it back on them. And if they can't give you the answer, then how in the world do they expect you to be able to provide the answer? So.
Good question.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Mugdha. So I'm a millennial. I'm a manager of Gen Zs and boomers. So
Okay.
sometimes it's a difficult, situation. We use Slack in our organization. So emojis they would use, or in the meeting, some terms they would use are like so different. I would like to know how to bridge that gap between two generations.
Oh man.
Funny, that's actually one of the questions we had as well. Like, how do we bridge the gap between the generations as you manage Gen Zs and millennials, plus you will still have some of the Gen Xers and maybe some boomers in your workforce?
So I have to do a whole lot of that, a whole lot. One example is arrival time to work. Some of our younger generation likes to come in whenever. Companies used to have core hours. My HR said, well, no, don't quite say that. I was like, okay. So I have to be deprogrammed. I can't say core hours of 7 to 3, whatever, because maybe the customer says they can come in at 10. Someone like me thinks coming in at 10 is absurd because I'm sitting at my desk at 6 a.m. But my kid's not coming to work at 6 a.m. They're just not. You got to talk to them. You got to make it interesting to them. And the reverse of making them feel like you care about them too. Oftentimes, our seasoned professionals feel like they are going to become obsolete and that we are now adjusting to the younger workforce, but we have to help them realize that we need them too. We need the legacy knowledge, and I am soon to be legacy knowledge, and I see that. In my customer team, I am the oldest person on that customer team, and I have supported that particular customer for about 13 years now, and it's funny. We make it fun. They talk about things and they're like, Keisha wouldn't know. And I'm like, well, actually, I do. And then they're like, oh, wow. They see that I'm interested in what they are doing, and so then they help me. They help me with the chat lingo because I don't know how to do it right. And my kids make fun of me, so then when I go home and I text them, they're like, Mom, how'd you know that? Don't worry about it. I'm learning. I'm learning from work. So tell them what emojis are the right emojis to use and be inclusive. I'm also an Android user. I am anti-Apple. Oh, I catch it. So you're the only one in the chat that's green. Yep, I'm green. Green is good, and I'm going to be that way. So just engage, and they will appreciate it because they kind of feel like, man, these people are going to take over my job. Actually, you're not, because you don't know what they know. They don't know what you know. We all need to be in here together.
Yeah. Dr. Cutts?
I agree. I have nothing.
No, nothing to add to that. Next question.
Hey, I am also a millennial,
Yes.
and I think there are quite a few in the room, not to judge, no, but so kind of on the flip side of things, when I first started the role I'm in now, about 5 years ago, I was the youngest on my team. Still am one of the youngest, but we've had a lot more hires in the 5 years. So I guess my question is, what do you want us to know that, for someone who might be the youngest on their team, how that we can help adapt to the situation we're put in as well?
It's a good question. I think we've all had that opportunity of being the youngest, right? And surprisingly enough, coming into the Corps of Engineers as an engineer in construction, I was the youngest for a long time because of the nature of the job, right? So I think that what you have to look forward to is this, right? Being the old person in the room, right? So, and it's crazy because, we're not old. but we feel like now it's kind of like you said, I'm older. I've been with the Corps of Engineers longer than some of you are old, right? And that is amazing to me to go back and remember from whence I've come. So I think take it all in. Suck it all in and definitely glean from the other people in the room. I think one of my biggest lessons is, as I talk now and I speak to people and I say I'm paying attention to who you are in the room, there was a lady in the room who had this superpower where she showed no emotion on her face, right? I don't know how a woman can do that. I mean, we are, they say a baby boy thing. You're emotional creatures, right? I'm sorry. Did I make a baby boy reference? I'm sorry. But we tend to be emotional, right? And, it's difficult to control my face, when I'm having conversation, especially when I'm passionate about it, right? And so I think just learn certain things in a room and be able to teach that to people who are coming behind you. Be cognizant that you are different. Be cognizant that there are value in your differences, but also be cognizant in the fact that your differences sometimes can be intimidating and not yet appreciated. It doesn't mean it doesn't have value. It's just that sometimes in the room it's not yet appreciated. And again, find that advocate who can help show that somebody else be able to begin to appreciate the differences. Because sometimes, like I said, we have to be taught. We have to understand the value in using those emojis. Because it is value in using those emojis sometimes, right? It's communications and styles. And so just be patient with us and don't give up, because you have value in that space, and don't think that you don't.
And just two things. Listen. Don't talk first. Just listen. We don't have to like it, right? We don't have to like what they're saying, anyone is saying, but listen. And have situational awareness in every space that you're in, because it helps. But you have to listen in order to have situational awareness. And then in your head, you can figure out how best to maneuver within that space. There is an opportunity for you to do so. Maybe not in the way that you thought you should, but there will be an opportunity. So those are two things. You're welcome.
Thank you.
So I've been listening. We're probably the same age. I've been cracking up, because I also manage both ends of the spectrum. And I've got to say, in my role, I'm at General Motors, learning and development, manufacturing, and what have you. Because of the differences, we've made some changes that have been positive, honest. The way that we communicate, before we put out a little flimsy newsletter, now the newsletter is engaging. We call it Level Up, where it used to be, hey, read and learn, So I love the energy, and so I want to share with you all, just don't give up. It's hard for us to get out of our way, to get out of our space, but we listen. We listen, and we appreciate what you bring to the table. I don't want it to be like, okay, well, here's these men, because I'm with them, but I'm like, okay, well, where's the millennial here? Where's that millennial voice there? And many times we do come across as we're, our age, and listen to us because we have all the questions. And I'm sure maybe some of you feel that way now. But we gain from you. We learn from you and bring it to the table. Sometimes, like she said, listen. If you're running us down and we're trying to show you something and tell you something, and you're cutting us off left and right, or telling me yesterday, I shared this with a colleague, I was talking to one of the millennials, and we were kind of having a disagreement about a situation, and she said, "Girl," and I thought, what are we doing here? And so I didn't come to work. I didn't go to work today, and we talked, trying to figure out how do I address this. But that is a difference as well. There's a respect issue. Yes. I talked to her. She feels like the friend that she can say that, but I'm still your leader. And so there's a give and take.
But we did that, right? We did that as parents. We did, and that's what I kind of opened before, right? Yep. We have to recognize that we wanted different for our kids. We wanted them to be heard. We wanted them to feel
and here it is.
Valued. And tell me why you feel that way. And now they think they can tell us anything.
I don't think I asked anyone in my house that question to tell me why you feel that way.
So continue, it's funny, but it's not.
Right.
You bring a lot to the table, and sometimes it's the approach. Don't stop. We need you. We need you. All right.
Awesome. Thank you. So we talked a little bit about the multi-generational workforce, right? What I want to touch on a little bit is on the multicultural. So what are some traits of the Gen Z and millennial employees that have proven to be positive additions to the multicultural workforce?
I think we talked about a lot of them already. Some of the things I had written down was, they're very in tune to who they are oftentimes. They're really big on self-care, self-awareness, and again, environmental and social consciousness, and then being their true, authentic self, right? And a lot of times in the workforce, we have opened that up. We've opened up opportunity for them to express themselves in ways where even if we don't understand the hot pink suit, we don't understand it, we would never do it again. When we did our resume writing workshops, we came in with a blue or black suit, But even though it's different, they're they're given opportunities to be true and authentically who they are. And to me, I love it. I'm all for it. I think there's a level of appropriateness, and again, that goes to the ability to correct. Say, hey, you can wear that hot pink skirt, but make sure I don't see your undergarments. You know what I mean? So there's the ability to correct, but still be your true, authentic self. And so I think they definitely add value to a culture of an organization, because culture, you can't change culture with strategicness, right? You have to change culture with intent. I heard that recently, I think at the Amy conference. So that wasn't mine. I stole it from somebody, right? But again, and they're forcing that culture change, and I'm here for it. But again, I think the balance is go back to what we need to offer them is that balance piece. But their self-awareness, their authenticity. I can't get that word. They're authentic. I think is amazing, and that definitely adds value to the organization.
Awesome. Dr. Horn?
My workforce is more diverse now than it has ever been. I am learning a lot. I'm excited about it. I have never worked with any engineers that weren't white males until now. And it's pretty amazing. So we welcome that. And it is because the millennials are coming in. And we have a lot more, I say this, but we all know what the stats are. We have a lot more women in STEM than there used to be. But it's a passion of mine. I am working every day to try to get more young ladies in STEM of all nationalities, because we need them. We need you. I employ you all to go and try to bring these ladies in. Middle school is where we get most discouraged with math and science. And I'm very proud to say that I have produced several STEM ladies from my home, and we're going to keep pushing. I'm putting in plugs. I've got one Morganite engineer that's already working, one sophomore that's a Morganite engineer now, majoring in EE, another Florida A&M biomedical engineer who already has internships for this summer and next summer, and she's only been in school for a month and a half. This is what we do. We are supposed to. We need them. We need the diversity. We need the ideas from everyone. So I am excited about it. My team has Asian men and women from all parts of Asia, white men and women, black men and women, Middle Eastern, one Middle Eastern male. It's amazing. We've all gone to different schools. We all learned a different way, but we can all communicate the same language. And so that part is fun. It's not all negative. It's fun, and we're gonna keep growing in that way.
Awesome. So
One thing I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go
Just
ahead.
want to add one thing, and again, the relationship with technology. Again, them being technologically savvy. I thought I was pretty good, but some stuff in Excel that they are teaching me, even just in Excel, is amazing, right? So I think that adds value to the organization as well. The fact that, they come in with all of this technologically savviness. What is going on with my brain today? My mouth is moving faster than my brain. But that has really been beneficial to us as an organization, because they're not afraid to come in and embrace the technology that we do have and help us upgrade it and increase the productivity that we have within our organization. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay. So we talked a lot about all the effective ways of working with them. And what I'd like to touch on, just as probably the last, is anybody else from the audience? Oh, come on down before I ask this
You
last
have
question.
another one. You can come too.
You stand back.
Yep. Come on.
Come on. I think she was leaving.
No, this is
Oh, she.
young
Oh, okay.
lady go ahead. You can go ahead. I'm sorry.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So as a fellow PhD, I just graduated in May. I'm a Morgan State University alum.
Oh, man.
Congratulations.
National
I'm so
treasure.
proud. I'm so proud.
So I also work for a 3-letter Department of Defense agency, so I'm a new hire. And my question is, what advice would you have for finding your voice and balance in the agency?
Oh man.
And I'm also a millennial, so
So, given the way a lot of those organizations are structured and the career services that you're in, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, right? You kind of got to get in, get your feet wet, and understand what that department does and how you move up in that department. I have a colleague here with me who is from my company and also works in the same environment as me. She's a person whose shoulders I have stood on. But she could maybe chime in on moving up in where you are. But I think from what we've seen, that situational awareness is key. You've got to understand how they move. And it may be that you eventually have to move to a different part of that agency because they just do things very different. There seems to be a designated path or a desired path from their optic that may not be what your desire is. But because you just started, sit back and take it all in. Just kind of see what's available. Never lose yourself. Don't ever stop engaging and contributing, but just listen and figure out what's going on there first, and then determine what path is best for you, is my advice.
Are you in the DMV?
I am.
There are a lot of networking opportunities there within those organizations within the DMV.
Yes.
So I would say offline, connect with me, engage in those. Definitely be a part of the system. It sometimes doesn't seem to be appealing to be a part of the system. We want to fight the power. But for this instance, in the beginning of your career, be a part of the system. There are a number of things that will help you. That will number of things that will help you navigate, understand how those organizations work, and you can grow within them. They have individual development plans. Seek mentors of all different. Right.
Yes.
A diverse group of
Absolutely.
mentors, right? You want to know what everybody's doing.
Yep.
Because you want to know what suits you best.
Yep.
So you have a significant number of opportunities specifically within that area. You'll be fine. You'll do great.
In that vein, another tip that I think is important is also to find a sponsor within your organization. So someone who's in the room when decisions are being made about your career and succession planning and those things, so that even if your mentor isn't there, you have someone in the room speaking up for you. So find a sponsor that knows what you do, understands your worth and value, and be able to speak up for you as well.
Thank you all so much.
You're welcome.
One more
Hello,
question.
sir.
Last
Thank
question.
Sure, Holden Singh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So I work in engineering consulting, for private electric utilities. And, I used to work for a different corporation, and we used to hire a lot of, college grads. So we had a young group. And something that surprised us was, during a issue of like a social issue, a national social issue, we got kind of feedback that people were kind of disappointed that
The way
the
you
company
responded?
didn't make any statement whatsoever. And so even moving forward, we were like, okay, let's, and we were managing, I still also manage across generations, across states, red and blue and such like that. And then, so even moving forward, we started to make statements, but they were very, middle of the ground, very, very acceptable by everybody. And we even received more feedback that, some people didn't feel like it went far enough, So how do we manage this situation as corporations or as managers to navigate this growing desire that newer generations have, that corporations make more, I'm going to say woke statements?
Yeah.
That is a very, very, very good and hard question, right? I think it definitely depends on your organization. I would say if your organization's intent is to ensure that they promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, then their position should always be to ensure that their culture exudes diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so whatever statement they make, they should do it unapologetically and intentionally. And if they can say that they're unapologetic and intentional in their statement, you're never going to please everybody. But as long as you've thought, as long as the organization or you as an individual, when you talk to your teams, because again, within the government, it was forced, right? I don't necessarily think the intent, because you have that balance of missing church and state, right? So in the government, our commander-in-chief, he's a four-star general, he had to come out and make a statement. It was, at that point, it was at a level where a statement needed to be made. But there was also small groups. And I think the leaders that were intentional and unapologetic with ensuring that diversity, equity, and inclusion was forefront made a sincere impact. And that's all you can do, is ensure that your intention is right. And you're never going to please everyone. But if your intention is right, then that should be enough.
And I would just add that, again, continue to have conversation with them. If you foster that relationship, you're able to go to them and say, look, our company is never going to be able to please everyone, like Dr. Cutts said, but let me try to help you understand why the company moves in this way versus that way. Because at the end of the day, it's a business. It is a business that is trying to gain revenue. And depending on the situation, it may not be in their best interest to speak out, especially companies like mine that heavily service the United States government. Just the mindfulness that they may not understand. They are a generation who is going to fight, and they are not going to give up, and I appreciate that. But I am from a generation that isn't always going to fight, depending on what it is. I'm gonna just, okay, maybe that isn't for me, right? Pick your battles. It just depends. But help them understand that, and help them understand that we understand. We are not discounting their feelings or their emotions in any way. That is not our intent. But the business needs to move in a certain way. And help give them options where they can advocate for what they believe in. Most of our companies have venues to be able to do that. I will say that Peraton has done amazing things since the 20 years that I've been with them. They have grown and progressed. A lot more organizations to support the workforce. Their statement, the general statement that Peraton makes, everyone may not agree with, but maybe in these smaller groups you can go in and express yourself and voice your opinion about it in a safe space. So.
Awesome. So we just got our notice of running out of time, so that was our last question.
Gotta go.
And thank you for joining us today for Effectively Managing Gen Z and Millennial Employees. And just a bit of housekeeping, please go on the app and check out our bios, as well as if you want CEU credit for this session.
Our moderator is getting an award. She needs to go.
I need to
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you. All right.
We will be here for a few more minutes
If
if
you
you
all
guys
want-
have questions.
And I have
Thank
my technology that somebody showed me how to do Blink. So if you need my business card, please come up and.
I don't have that.